Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Trek Canon. We can call this our first Halloween edition. So, as this our first Halloween edition, what I wanted to do was make a scary story, provide you all with a scary story that's based in the canon of Star Trek. Now, I wanted to do this in a special way. And first off, I'm going to say that this story is not canon, but it is based on the events that's going on in season 7, I believe. Hold on. It's the episode Genesis. All right. And I'm going to call this story SubGenesis. Now, it's a particular, like I said, it's a particular take on that episode Genesis. And this story is designed to influence you to watch the episode because I think that it would be a nice Halloween Star Trek episode for you guys to take a look at. And I hope that this story, SubGenesis, does it justice. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick off this story. Stardate 47653.2. I have a full schedule. This week, servicing the holodecks and replicators. Routine, really. The cargo replicators are the hardest. Most people assume the holodecks, but I've witnessed some, let's say, hazardous materials on cargo duty. I passed Commander Riker a bit earlier. He was on his way to medical with thorns in his back. His antics are rivaled only by Captain Kirk and Curzon. He's always been a ladies' man as far as I've heard. It must be in the air, though. Springtime. Even Data's cat, Spot, has been sneaking into my quarters. It's cute. I just go and let them have their privacy. Him and Hercules have always been a cute couple to me. Stardate 47653.6. Today wasn't too bad on the holodecks. My roommate kept changing the temperature while we were working, and Lieutenant Barkley seemed a bit more unusual than normal. Come to think of it, it must be something else in the air. Agitation. Even Lieutenant Worf, who's normally, his normal state seems agitated, seems even more on edge. Stardate 47653.8. Things are starting to get a bit weird with the crew. My supervisor, Lieutenant Reed, has been acting almost animalistic. Security took several minutes to arrive and take him to sickbay. They say they've been busy with several reports from all over the ship. With the captain on an away mission, Commander Riker's been in charge, but even he's been acting strange. I heard Lieutenant Commander Monroe explaining that there was an incident in weapons control. Ensign Everett had mistakenly routed too much power to the lateral quadrant array. It had blown out several targeting relays, which affected the power distribution nodes. Commander Riker either seemed uninterested or, whether I should say, distracted. Almost like he didn't understand, I should say. Thing is, Ensign Everett would never have made such a mistake, normally. I wish Captain Picard was here. Stardate 47655.2. I was awakened by what sounded like a howl, or what I thought was a howl. Must have been dreaming. Was I a bird? What does howling have to do with a bird? I decided to get an early start since I'm not supposed to be sleeping, I guess. Those replicators aren't going to clean themselves. As I stepped into the corridor, I could hear faint sounds I couldn't immediately make out. scratching, maybe rustling or clawing. There was a hint of something burning. I don't have phantasmia, so I stepped back into my quarters to retrieve my personal maintenance tricorder from my table. It's something I put together, something that I like to use in my personal time. I figured I'd report this to the team. I know they're going to be working down by the Arboretum restoring power and to some of the areas around that way. It was one of the areas affected by the power outage, so I figured this was the best time as any to join in. There was no one working when I arrived. The entire area, it seemed, was vacant. As I turned the corner, I tripped over something. When I stood to take a look back and investigate, part of the floor had been dissolved. I took out my tricorder and scanned it. It had organic properties. Something secreted this onto the floor. I tapped my comm badge. Sporadic and overlapping voices emerged from it, so I just turned it off. I have to get to security and report this. When I arrived at the security station, Dr. Copian was explaining that there may have been an infection on board, and that security needed to enact quarantine procedures. I informed Dr. Copian and the security officer of what I had seen near the Arboretum. She said she'd send someone when she could, and that I should report to my supervisor. Stardate 47656.7. All hell has broken loose. Primary power is offline and auxiliary power is unstable. I've barricaded myself in Engineering 3. The crew, they've been devolving. I'm guessing due to the T-virus created from someone's T-cell. If this wasn't such a situation, I'd think I was in an old Earth zombie game. But this is quite real. I found my way to medical where I picked up a medical tricorder. Dr. Crusher is in bad shape. The T-cell or T-virus so far isn't affecting me. I need to find a way to contact the captain or at least warn Starfleet this vessel is under quarantine and what's going on here. The only way to do that, though, is from the bridge or main engineering. And I've seen that webbing in main engineering, so I think it's best not to enter there. So, time to go. The corridors were dark and humid. The power fluctuations made the light flicker, breaking the halls filled otherwise with ominous dark shadows and dark silhouettes. I have to evade the crew. They have de-evolved into species from their home worlds. In some cases, these primitive species are harmless, but there are those whose planet's histories have truly terrifying monsters. There may be some of the crew immune to this T-cell, even if a very few. I hope they're okay, but it's too dangerous to seek them out at the moment. I need to get to the bridge, but the turbo lifts are unreliable. I have to take a Jeffries tube and climb up. I don't wish to be confined in space that small just in case something shows up, but I don't see I have an alternative. The thing Lieutenant Worf had turned into was once such a monster, and he was also lurking about, and I definitely didn't want to run into him again. It was also hot in the Jeffries tube. Someone or something was really messing with the environmental controls. It was only 2 more decks to get to the bridge. I had come out on the rear side of the conference room. That way, I could easily make it to the bridge. As I climbed up the last rung and looked down the tube, I could see the closed hatch. Lights still flickering reminded me of those old horror streams Captain Rico used to watch on the old ship. No time to think like that. Let's go. As I crawled towards the latch, I felt the floor becoming wet. No, slimy. I stopped and took out my tricorder. I scanned. There was a life form on the other side of the hatch. I barred the hatch door, and it banged with a loud thud. The sound wrung my ears. I slid away from the hatch. I could hear it on the other side, slithering against the hatch. Then I could smell a sharp, sweet smell almost caught my nose. It was the smell of it dissolving through the hatch. I rushed through the way I came. Behind me, I could hear what sounded like several wet sponges smacking metal. It was after me. No time to look back. I made it across the tube, leading down to the other side. Still rushing, it grabbed my ankle as it fell down a hole with the ladder. I looked back, kicking at the tentacle with my foot. It felt like a python holding my ankle. Its body was down in Jeffrey's tube, but I could see several other tentacles writhing from beneath, attempting to find grip, attempting to find me. I finally freed myself, sending it plunging several decks down into the darkness. Its screeching finally silencing. I wondered who that was, but I can't remorse now. The bridge. I got to get to the bridge. Up this way was the captain's ready room. I'd exit there. Pulling out my tricorder, I scanned the room on the other side of the Jeffrey's tube hatch. It was clear. Although I was reading two life forms on the bridge, they both seemed in various stages of the infection, but I still exited. With caution, I slid the ready room doors a couple inches open. I could see Ensign Ramirez at the con. I exited the room with excitement. Ramirez looked relieved to see me, but cautioned me to stay away from Commander Riker, who was huddled in the corner near the conference room entrance. "He's de-evolved," Ramirez said. "He can't help us." Ramirez was trying to get power to the station so he could alter our course. We were drifting into the asteroid field, and without shields, we were dead. I asked if he was able to contact the captain, and he said no. Ramirez gestured me to the ops station. He had got partial power to the con and was trying to turn the ship. Then I heard him. Lieutenant Worf. He was in a Turbolift 1, trying to get onto the bridge. Commander Riker jumped up to run towards the captain's ready room. He closed the door behind him. He looked like a caveman. Ramirez told me to route power to 4 port thrusters. He knew he had to correct the ship's trajectory. I pressed at the console frantically. The turbolift had finally slid open. I remembered the emergency phaser in the ops console and reached for it. But Worf was so fast. Ramirez yelled at me to fire. This got Worf's attention, who leaped at Ramirez. I heard Ramirez's bones break. But I fired, hitting Worf in the back. But his armor was too thick, and he felt nothing. Ramirez screamed in pain. It almost drowned out the frantic power setting changes I was making to increase the phaser settings. I aimed the phaser again at Worf. His clawed hand raised high above the seated Ramirez. I fired. This time it made Worf even madder. His claws pierced Ramirez's chest. He screamed out. I could smell the blood that poured from his wounds. I panicked. This time I fired again. One of the beams hitting the con station, the blinding light engulfing the bridge. Worf howled in pain, and as fast as he came in, he left through the turbolift shaft. The damage had knocked out the power transfer grid. We were now back adrift. But Ramirez had altered the ship's course enough to evade the asteroid field. Personal log, stardate 4765.0. I am succumbing to the virus. According to my most recent scan, my introns are being affected, and I couldn't. There was someone I needed to tell, but it's something. I can't concentrate. I can't remember what I needed to do. Just the sky. No sky in space. But it would have been nice to see spring sky, Hercules and Spot. Transmission terminated. So, I hope you guys liked SubGenesis, which is my rendition of the things going on in the background of the episode Genesis, which is a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. So, I wish everyone a happy and safe Halloween. Don't eat too much candy unless you're built for it. Check your candy as always. And, man, stay safe. And as always, peace, recycle, and save the whales. You guys be cool.